A 30-year-old online entrepreneur, and if you're 20 years old right now, lock in on this video. It just might change your life. I've done over 5 million in sales when it comes to my e-commerce stores, coaching, my social media channels, etc. And if I have to give you advice right now on how to jump ahead of your competition, then here's what it is. Ranking from the worst to the best. The first thing is that your body is not going to forgive you for the mistakes that you used to get away with. Meaning, you want to start taking advantage of your health right now. I've noticed that in business, like the best thing that I've done was actually just working on my physique. It builds trust. I didn't even know all of these things until I got deeper into business and I realized that it adds another layer of respect when you walk into the room and people see that you're in shape. Now, granted, I got lucky because I started playing sports from a very young age. I've, always been somebody active, so I've always naturally had a great physique. Now, I know you're wondering, why is he talking about his physique if, this is about business? Well, this actually is going to help develop trust and show people that you do business with that you're somebody who's disciplined, you're somebody who's trustworthy. People want to be around people who are on that level and have a great physique, and it's gonna exude in your own confidence too. So it's a very, very useful investment, especially when you're young. Get it out the way, especially as a young man. You can't look like a fat, lazy piece of shit, okay? Or people are just not gonna respect you in any aspect of life. All right, and before I go over to the next few things that I think are really gonna help you become a millionaire, I want to mention that, yes, I know that this video is very different from the previous videos that I posted on this channel. It's not about making money or getting rich, no edits, simple. And it's because I'm traveling right now. I'm in Africa, I'm in my home country, Mali, and I'm a little bit grounded right now. So I've been doing some introspection, and I want to sort of, I actually started a whole different channel where I'm going to share more videos like this and give you insight on what my business philosophy is and my mindset, rather than just talking about, yo, make $20,000 on TikTok shop today. But if you want to check those videos out, do that too. But I'll leave a link to my new channel that I'm going to be building up from scratch right down on this video. Check the description, check the comment section for that. And thank you guys for getting me to 85K here on this channel. Now, second thing, I wrote them down here. Okay, travel while you're young, yo. This is one of the best things that I've actually done. Is I've always had that itch to explore the world, and once I started making my first, sort of passive income with like e-commerce, the first things I was doing was just traveling. I can now say that I have like close to 30 countries under my belt. I want to keep expanding that. I've been to almost every single continent, and I've learned that it just opens your mind. It opens your perspective a lot more to, the types of people that you're going to be dealing with. You can, after you travel enough countries, you're going to be wise enough to put people in certain types of buckets, okay, to where you're easily able to adapt to them. And, I've found that a compliment that I get a lot is that people say, you're easy to talk to. And I attribute this to me knowing a whole bunch of different cultures. So I know how to meet people where they're at. I'm also bilingual myself. I'm interested in foods from other countries. I'm interested in other languages and their cultures, traditions, all that stuff. So this is going to open your mind. And as somebody who grew up in the hood, the first thing I wanted to do was travel. And one of the best investments I've made, especially as somebody who is young, okay? Rack up on those points with your credit cards as well, okay? Now, that brings me to my next point. Monitor and manage your credit. Your credit is going to allow you, don't look at your credit as another source of income or things that's going to allow you to just like spend money freely. Your credit is just something that you can use as leverage, okay? So that you always have spending power. And that doesn't mean that you have money. It means you have spending power. You have enough over to cover any immediate or emergency expenses, given that you plan things out thoroughly. And of course, make sure that you never miss a payment. Make sure that you're keeping your utilization low. And instead of getting personal credit cards, you want to get credit cards in your business name. So open a business account, an official business with the EIN and the LLC, so that you can put all of your debt onto that business and you won't be personally liable for it. But then you also want to take advantage of the points because that's going to allow you to travel and do what I previously said even more. Okay, that's a whole nother play. We can talk about that on the newer channel. All right. It's also going to allow you to scale businesses way faster, okay, than your competition. All right. Fourth thing, be prepared for people to hate you as you start to grow. Okay. And what I mean by this is that the people that you naturally are around right now, they're attracted to the version of you that they're comfortable, that's comfortable to be around. Okay. And as you start to progress, as you start to level up and grow, what's going to happen is it's going to be uncomfortable for them to be around you, and it's going to be uncomfortable for you to have certain types of conversations with them. Okay, because when you're trying to reach that 10 15K a month and they're working a 9-to-5 job, they're going to be like, yo, they're not going to comprehend that you're thinking about quitting your job, because to them that they would never consider that. So they're going to say things and they're going to speak from a biased standpoint to where it actually discourages you on your path. And because it's uncomfortable to be around you while you have this newfound goal, this new mindset, whatever, they're going to start to low-key hate you for it. They're going to hate that you make them feel uncomfortable, and they're going to hate that you are a reflection of all their insecurities and the things that they lack. And you know, this can be family, it can be your best friends, it can be anything, okay? And, you know, envy is real. It doesn't mean that the person is necessarily a bad person. It just means that they have issues and insecurities that you bring out of them. So, of course, it's going to cause them to be uncomfortable. So just be wary of that. And I know it sucks, but it's usually the person that you least expect it from, okay? Now, the next thing here is to build your skills, not your income. Okay, what I've come to notice is that every single business that I've had, whether it succeeded or it failed, and you know, succeeding might mean making a certain amount of money. Succeeding also might mean just seeing how the market was going to interact with it, even though I had no plans for it to scale. But at the end of every single new venture that I started, I walked away with a new set of skills, okay? In college, it was actually my first business, which is a t-shirt business. This was my first official one, okay? Even before that, I was selling candy in high school. That taught me how to buy low and sell high. I knew about profit margins at that point, okay? Graduating to college, I started a t-shirt business that I added like, you know, you guys probably heard me talk about it, but I added Afrocentric prints to it and I sold them. And then that taught me about scalability issues because I wasn't selling that online. I was selling it to friends and people I knew. But after a while, they stopped buying. So the business died down. So I had to think, okay, I know profit margins. I need to know how to scale now. Then I moved to actual drop shipping. Okay, I wouldn't have seen it as an attractive business model if I didn't run into the problems of the business before, which was profit margins and scalability. Well, what gives you the best of both worlds when it comes to those two things? It's drop shipping. So I naturally progressed to the next level. And that's what you're going to notice with every single business venture that you go across. I was actually big on photography, okay? I was big on, I had to learn how to run digital ads, which I can use now for any brands that I run. So you're going to compound all these skills and it's going to get to a point where you're just filthy. You're just a beast. Like, you're deadly when it comes to anything business related, building a brand, scaling it, launching it fast. These are all skills and it had nothing to do with the income. And quite frankly, a lot of those businesses end up failing. Yeah, I made some money from them, but I was still able to walk away with a good amount of skills that compounded over time. All right, so don't sleep on that. Skills are very, very important, especially in your 20s. You have all the room to just fuck up and make mistakes and fail. In fact, I encourage you to fail and fail as fast as possible because there's a lesson at the other side of that failure. Okay, next thing here is to adapt or die. There's always going to be this new trend. There's going to be this new thing. Now, you need to be able to distinguish this from shiny object syndrome, okay? Like, an example of this is when crypto and meme coins were coming out. I was hesitant at first because it sounded too good to be true. Okay, it wasn't practical. So I didn't dabble in them. And then a few months later, you started hearing about all these rug pulls. And I thank myself for not dabbling in them. But when something new like TikTok, the TikTok app comes across, it's showing promising results for a few people. Okay, there's nothing really sketchy about it. The logistics make sense. It makes all the sense in the world to tap into it. Okay, tap into this new platform because we're seeing people's lives change from it in a legitimate way. And that's what I mean by adapt or die. If I don't actually put my pride aside of not wanting to be on such a silly app, you seeing all these people dancing, and if you don't put your pride aside from things like that, I wouldn't be able to be making 30K a month right now and profit from TikTok Shop. You know, because I would have just overlooked it and I would have just, wrote it off as something that was for like young people that, there's no real money to be made, etc. Okay. Same thing with AI. When ChatGPT first came out, I was like, okay. And then I dabbled in it and then I started realizing how it can actually help my businesses. And now that's like a hot topic. Okay. And it's just ever evolving. So adapt whenever you see a new thing come along, as long as it's legitimate. All right. Do your research. Next thing is to realize that sleep is your number one medicine, okay? The days where I felt the most optimized as an entrepreneur and the days where I felt like I could take over the world and I had all the energy is when I've had a good night's sleep the night prior, okay? So I know it sounds lame, okay, but when everybody else is out on Saturday nights, go ahead and get yourself a good night of sleep, okay? And be consistent too. Set your room temperature to cold. That's when the human body actually sleeps the best. I also had a Aura ring, okay? If you don't know, that's a ring where it can kind of measure your body's BPM and basically your sleep and give you a rating of your sleep. When I started doing that, I started to notice that, humans sleep for a third of their lives, but we have no way of measuring this. So if you actually want to optimize yourself as an entrepreneur, you need to optimize yourself as a human being first. And to do that, sleep is one of the most primal things that all of us have to take care of, just like on a biological level, on a mental level, spiritually, like everything is happening in your sleep. So when you take care of that, you dream in your sleep. So all these dreams and things you want to realize, you'll see them when you sleep. So take care of your sleep and you'll be much more of an optimized entrepreneur and human being overall. Trust me. And be consistent with it over long periods of time. And even if you fall off track, come back to your regular sleep schedule and find out what your sleep type is. I recommend just Googling it. You'll see it's like 4 types. I'm a bear, for example. So we like to sleep at 10 and then wake up at 6. If I've missed that window, then I will just stay up the rest of the night, which is why it's important for me to fall asleep at a certain time, right? So find out what your type is and trust me, you're going to thank yourself in the future. All right, another thing, move somewhere alone, okay? Be in isolation. Anytime that I've done serious damage with my businesses is when I was alone. Okay, even right now, I'm like alone right now. Okay, I have family nearby, but right now I just got these bursts of inspirations. You notice that whenever you go into the shower, that's when you feel sort of isolation, but then that's what allows your creativity to breathe. And you get to come to know yourself a little bit more. You get to come to trust yourself a little bit more. Be more self-sustaining and independence, which gives you confidence, right? So. It also forces you to find that next level that your inner self and your inner being wants to achieve. So isolation is very important. And anytime that I've really scaled and done crazy things is when I was isolated. You guys recently seen that I went to Mexico. I've documented that series. And what happened? Within the first 45 days, I built a business from 0 to 15K in profit in the very first 45 days. All right. So I did that in isolation and putting yourself in times of pressure, okay? Because that's what's actually going to propel you. If you're safe and you have distractions and people are around, then you're gonna become them, okay? And that's not bad to become them, but it's bad if you're trying to progress. Now, the next thing is money is not everything, but it's a damn good way to keep score, okay? When you learn to detach yourself from money, what I notice is that a lot of people fear money. And if you're scared to spend money, you're gonna be scared to make money as well. If you start saving money and saying, hey, this is all that I've saved in the past 6 months, so I'm so scared to invest it, you're gonna make a move and an investment based off of emotion, and that will never end well. So you need to learn that money is not your master. You are the master of your money. You put your money to work, okay? It's a tool. And all it really is just value, okay? Money is a representation of your value. Money is a way to keep score or of how valuable you are to the market. Okay, that's all that money actually is. It's just a representation of something. It's something that humans collectively agreed on have some inherent sort of value. But I could take a piece of some money right here. This is some franc CFA. Okay, I'm in West Africa right now, and if I rip this right now, it means nothing. Okay, this money means nothing now, but it is a representation of some sort of value. And if you keep that in mind, you'll be less attached to it and more focused on the value that you're actually providing to the market. And eventually the money will come and find you. Okay. Now, let's see what else we got. Desexualizing your brain. Okay. This is something that fortunately I was able to do this very early on. I would say, I don't know. But I've I've seen a lot of people struggling with corn. Okay, I think that that's a big epidemic amongst young men. Um, Naturally, I guess maybe because of my religious beliefs, I never really explored that world, as much as other people seem to have addictions with it. Okay, so I'm not saying that to big myself up, but I've recognized that still I've had like sexual urges and things like that when it comes to things in public. Okay, and once you become a slave to that emotion, and you're willing to, for example, okay, like a girl invites you over at a late night, and then you're willing, instead of doing the work that you have to do, you're willing to give that work up in order to just go spend the night with shorty. And now you're set back a few more steps because you wanted to, you know have a nut for like 5 minutes. Now ladies, I don't know what this is like for y'all, but I'm speaking to the guys right now. If you learn to desexualize your brain, and you learn again not to be manipulated by sexual urges, then that shows that you have more control. It shows you have discipline over yourself. And when you're in control, it gives you it gives you much more confidence in what you're doing. And also, you're not letting energy just um, be absorbed elsewhere where it's not actually progressing you. Okay, so the corn addictions and anything like that, I think that's a given. Everybody kind of knows that that's just weird. All right, it's like if you're watching other people engage in sexual activity through a video, all that means is that you're just a cuck. It's just that you're a virtual one. You're not even bold enough to do it in person. You're just watching another man fulfill the fantasy that you have in your own mind, but it's like you're watching him through the blindfolds or something. It's just very weird. I've never been able to I didn't even have the chance to be addicted to that stuff. um but if you are, I think already, like that's going to be a huge problem. Okay, because you don't have enough control over yourself and your sexual urges. All right, so you're most likely not going to be successful until you cut that off. You're just not naturally built to succeed that way. Okay, um that's just biology at that point. Okay, another thing is leading to the second point here, which is understanding your emotions. Okay, whenever you have an emotion, this term has become recently like more popular, which is, what is it called, emotional intelligence. Okay, and all that really means, what people are trying to say is be aware of your emotions. If you allow things to just trigger you and then you react in response to that, again, people can control you and you are not in control of yourself. Do you notice that the last three things I talked about is about you being in control? Okay, if you let your emotions dictate how you feel throughout the day, feel how you move, your actions and everything, you are a slave to your emotions. Okay. If you're going to let your emotions dictate your next moves in the market and in business, then how are you ever going to grow a business sustainably and logically over time? Okay. As soon as something happens that becomes a wreck, your business is going to fail right along with that emotion that just happened to dissipate in the past 20 minutes anyways. Okay. So use the 90-second rule. There's something called the 90-second rule that basically states that every time you feel an emotion, 90 seconds later, that emotion is completely gone unless you just let it sit in your brain. So control your mind as well. That's something we can talk about later. But when something happens that triggers you, a trick to this is to just sit before you open in your mouth or react, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? When you ask yourself these two questions about any emotion, you'll kind of just come to understand like, oh, I'm just a little tense because of that. And if it's an issue that needs to be addressed, address it. Okay. And if it's something that's very petty and not going to matter in like a year from now, then it's not important. Let it go and move on. Be in the present. Think about the future. Don't dwell on the past. All right. Another thing is to work with people whose values align with yours. Okay, you guys know by now by my name. My name is Mohamed. I'm Muslim. Okay, I tend to find that it's easier for me to partner with people who are Muslim as well because they share the same core beliefs and values. They don't believe in interest. You know, they have good work ethic and they're consistent because we have to pray multiple times a day. So that's just something that I see that is I'm attracted to when it comes to working with people. And like a lot of my teams, majority of the times, inevitably becomes Muslim. I don't know why. It's just the thing. It's because we have this underlying set of principles that we can always trust each other on. And if anything falls apart, I know that your guilty conscience is going to eat you alive for it. So you'll never let it get to that point, right? So definitely consider that when you're working with certain types of people. Ask yourself, is this somebody that I can bring into my crib and have dinner with while my family is in the same room? Okay. If not, then that's probably not somebody you want to work with long term. Okay. And right here, don't listen to what people say. Watch what they do. Okay. For the longest time, what people say has become the what people say will almost always deceive you. Okay. And I do think that people don't choose to lie like explicitly. They say what is convenient, they say what is the good answer to your question, but they don't say the truth. Okay. And that's just all human beings. I might do it myself in some cases. And a better measure of people's character is to just watch their actions. Okay, their actions are going to tell you more about them than their actual words. Okay, they'll tell you, hey man, I'll pay you back for sure, but then when that time comes to pay you back, they never are to be paid. So which one is a better determine which one better determines their character? It's going to be their actions, because that's ultimately what happens when shit hits the fan. How people behave in those times, it's their actions, it's not their words anymore. Okay, so look at what people do and always believe them the first time. Never listen to what they say.